What's going on, everybody? It's Noah here from Team 3G, here with a Star Wars Unlimited video. In today's video specifically, I want to be talking about the Eternal format, and so far, my favorite deck that I've been able to bring back and continue playing in the Eternal format since rotation has happened, and that is Sabine ECL. One of my favorite things about this deck is just the speed and the power that it has, along with being the only deck I've ever been able to really do well, super well with at a Planetary Qualifier, actually getting second place at one of the Louisville ones, with my only loss being in the finals to Lego Pizza, and allow me to get an automatic day 2 invite to the Galactic Championships during that Season 0 competitive time. So let's jump right into Sabine ECL in Eternal format now, and let's talk about why we would even want to bring Sabine to an Eternal Planetary Qualifier, which thankfully there are going to be 2 in my area that I'm going to be able to attend, and Sabine is looking like the main factor, the main deck that I want to bring because of all of these different factors. So why Sabine in particular? The main thing I have figured out after just playing around with some different decks is the Eternal format is very, very fast right now. That is with the help of a lot of Tarkin Town decks being around, a lot of ECL decks being around, and also mainly because of DJ being back with all of the suspensions and bans no longer being in place. DJ is really holding back a lot of these later flip leaders that held Sabine back for the later part of Premiere before rotation happened. So that's why I believe the Eternal format is very, very fast right now. The meta is also going to be very unpredictable. I know as I have been getting in some games, there's been a lot of strange decks pop up, a lot of theory crafting happening online. In particular, Tobias is... We seem to actually have a combo deck now with Tobias, which we'll get to a little bit later, but the meta is going to be a little unpredictable with Force Throw back, with Triple Dark Raid being back, and all of these other cards. We don't know what to expect, so why not just go fast ourselves? Currently, Sabine also seems to have a pretty winnable matchup across the board against all these different decks. It just has so much burst potential and power behind all of these cards that in any matchup, it seems like it can be winnable at any given moment. And sometimes you just draw hot, and sometimes that's what you need to just simply win tournaments. Also, Poe and Wrecker are easily the staples of this deck. It's what allows you to finish out games or take care of any leader flips that might be super problematic during the game. And since all of these, this meta is kind of unpredictable, there seems to be not as many Sentinel units running around, which is what has given Sabine many, many problems in the past. Now, let's talk about the deck list that I've been really playing here and honing in on. One of the main things is making sure our 4 cause I believe in is going to be online most of the time. Sometimes we might hit a timely intervention, but a majority of the time we're hitting 4 damage, which is super, super important with how fast this format really is. Also, some new additions. Obviously, the Karis Nimic is a huge addition to this deck, along with the Group Marines, that 3-drop 4/4 stat line. It's really pesky, especially for these Tarkin Towns that have maybe already used it for our turn 1 play. If we can drop that down and start swinging for 4, or even 6, if we're able to use Fleet Lieutenant with it, that starts really chipping away at a lot of these 25 health bases very, very quickly. For the rest of the list, it's pretty standard. I like just having the 1 heroic sacrifice in case we do need that damage pump to be able to get over the edge, or to even just sacrifice our K2SO. The wing leaders, even though a lot of yellow decks may be running around, if you can ever get that on a Sabine flip after really churning a lot of actions around, then sometimes putting that right onto your Sabine can really be a great burst of damage. Also, the timely intervention allows you to have some later game ambush plays, along with some maybe other awkward turns, being able to filter out that one cost to get in quite a good ambush, even though it may not be best used for that turn. Sometimes you just want to be able to spend all of your resources to the best of your ability, and that one cost timely, along with Rebel Assault and Heroic Sacrifice, really allows you to do that. Again, we got Chewie here for all of these pesky control decks that might be running around. And then Sabine's Masterpiece is just an all-star. If they don't deal with it, it gets out of hand super, super quick. Also to note, we are running 15 turn 1 plays. This is super, super important because missing a turn 1 play in this deck can cause us to really be set behind on the race and cause us to just lose that race in general. Now, the sideboard, just to touch on it a little bit, I've mainly crafted it to be able to handle just various different types of matchups, including control, and also if there's any type of leaders or units in general that blue leader might need to be able to ambush in, or if there's any space decks, being able to bring it in to help us with that would be really, really helpful. The Spec Force Soldier is going to be really huge. If we do so happen to run into any Sentinel decks, it'll be there to help and just also help fill out the curve. Also, we do have the Fighters for Freedom, just overall a very solid 3-drop with Saboteur, and can help us keep continuing to pile on damage into their base. So yeah, that is it for the deck list here. So let's jump into some of the matchups we might see in Eternal. So the main one, the boogeyman of this new Eternal format, he has been released. Let's talk about Jango Tarkin Down. The reps I've had with Sabine going into Jango Tarkin Down, the number one game plan I have found to be most effective is simply just go wide. Do not try to load up a unit with a bunch of XP tokens or Chewbacca. That is going to be just continuously tapped down over and over again, and you're just simply missing out on more damage while they're interacting with your units. Also, I've also found on turn 1, if you have the initiative, it's not a bad idea to go ahead and first thing, ping that 1 damage off your Sabine. That'll keep them, if they have ISB agent, from just simply Tarkin Towning your turn 1 play. And sometimes they might just pass, and it's not a bad thing to just claim if you have Cassian in hand to lead up. Also, the main thing, other besides going wide, is have a way to deal with his flip turn. This could be either having ECL ready with Poe. Maybe you have to wait the next turn for your Wrecker. Either way is fine as long as you have a way to deal with his flip turn. That helps manage the game state a whole lot better. Once he gets to the point where he's tapping down a whole lot of your units, it is very, very difficult to win the race, which is our last bullet point. This is a 25 health Tarkin Town base. A couple of pings, a couple of ambushes with Timely and or ECL, along with maybe For a Cause I Believe In to get you over that edge. Some Fleet Lieutenants. Whatever way you need to, pump damage, win the race. All right, our next, just to stay on the Tarkin Town topic, this was back whenever, Sabine and Quinlan and Han 1 were kind of at the peak of the jump to light speed meta. Quinlan was one of these weird matchups, kind of like also with Cad Bane, where turn 1, you kind of just want to ping a damage and see how they react. Don't be afraid to claim on turn 1 if they simply pass after you have pinged. Going to 3 and playing a Cassian really quick, or pinging again, setting you both to 2 damage, and then they play a 2 or a 3 drop, sometimes can just set you up to where you're able to win the race. The main thing though is making sure your ECL is better than their Tarkin Town. If they do Tarkin Town early, it's not the end of the world. We have ECL to help us make up for that with K2SO, Poe, or Wrecker. Mainly those latter two of Poe and Wrecker though. All right, and then the other unsuspended leader here is Boba Fett. The main thing is to try to play on curve whenever it's Sabine's flip turn. A 2-cost and a 2-cost really helps make sure you're less likely to get blown out by an overwhelming barrage if they're playing green, or a cunning if they're playing mono yellow. I've also found Chewy Pilot is actually very effective for sure in the mono yellow matchup, as the only thing they're really able to do is try to tap your unit down with cunning. They can't bounce it anymore. And they don't have any great units to really deal with a space presence. So Chewy Pilot can be very, very effective here. Also, for a cause that I believe in, is really important to make sure you get over that little damage bump you might encounter whenever Boba flips, and being able to push that last little bit of damage. Again, also here, ECL Power Wrecker is just very, very well positioned into Boba, as it makes sure he can't ready up any more resources, and also leaves you with quite a hefty unit on board that they have to answer instantly. All right, now we're talking about Han 1. This is probably one of the more tough matchups that Eternal probably has to offer for Sabine. And the reason why is, if you don't understand the fact of, like, you can easily get blown out by this deck, then it can be very, very rough if you have the wrong opening. Since, again, we're trying to go fast, the best thing to do in this is to stay on the ground. If you play a A-Wing turn 1 and they are able to use the Han action to then play a Falcon ready up, you're going to lose the race. Not instantly, but it's very, very hard to come back from that. So you need to find a path to either deal with the Han or try to outrace the Han. The Han flip turn is super important for them, because most of the time it means that they're either about to play a great unit, or they're about to just simply do a bunch of damage in one turn. Now, since they are resourcing a lot and using their hand to get extra resources, K2SO's discard sometimes might be a very viable option. If you see there's only 1 or 2 cards left in hand, and maybe you're just fighting for a board presence, maybe you decide to hit that discard on K2SO instead of trying to 3 damage. But if you are racing, obviously you want to use K2SO to deal that 3 extra damage. And then ECLing Impo. The reason why Wrecker is not as effective here is because most of the time they have already made it to the flip turn before we have enough resources to even play a Wrecker. So that's where Poe can come in handy, or even just simply trying to use something to trade up into the 6 health. That is one good thing about Han Solo, is he is only a 6 health unit and not a 4 health unit. So the new Group Marine, since it's a 4/4, a simple damage boost from Heroic Sacrifice or the Fleet Lieutenant could also get us there to make that trade. And surprisingly, ever since I have started to try to stay on the ground, the Han matchup feels much more manageable, and it's went a lot better as a Sabine player. All right, now then, control. Another reason why I like Sabine is because the control matchup sometimes can be a little weird, but at the same time, it feels very, very manageable with all the extra damage that we can suddenly burst before they're able to flip their leader sometimes. In particular, Kira seems to be a little more pesky to deal with than Kylo here. But I just wanted to touch on the fact that either of these options could be a thing. Also, there might be some Eternal format blue-red villain control deck that might be running around out there. You just never know. It's Eternal. It's the Wild West. No ban list. You just never know what you could run into. But in the case of a control deck, again, usually space is our best option. Most of these blue-green villain control decks don't really have a whole lot of great options, especially if you slap a Chewy Pilot onto one of these space units, then it's very difficult for them to answer. Also, we get Cassian Smuggle and also the Karis Spy. So if they do ever wipe our board, we can easily refill it and get in some more damage. But usually the thing that I have found is if you make the most of your flip turn, whether that is being able to Rebel Assault along with a Fleet Lieutenant or a Wing Leader, or playing two drop units, or if you're needing to ECL in K2SO to take care of Kira. If you can make the most of that flip turn and get the most damage you possibly can, you can easily position yourself to get to that 33 health to finish out the game strong. All right, now let's talk about the random decks that we might encounter in Eternal. Again, this is the Wild Wild West. Force Throw is back out there, so Yoda and Han could easily make a presence. I don't expect to see much Yoda, though, as, again, DJ is back, but people love their little green guy, so you never know if you might see it. I feel like out of these leaders, though, the two most expected would be Han Solo or Gar Saxon. Han Solo would probably be our roughest matchup in general because of all of the Force and Sentinel units that they play. As I remember, whenever Legends of the Force meta was around, Sabine had a really rough time getting around those Sentinels, dealing with all the restore, and just dealing with all of these great units being played early. Gar Saxon can be winnable. It seems like they do have some trouble. The green version of the ECL version, they tend to have a little bit of trouble dealing with space. It's tended to be the most effective, and sometimes you can just get completely blown out of the game if they have initiative and they play some of the new units from this new set, such as the Leppy Lookout, and then also the other three cost 2-1 and blue green. Her name is currently slipping my mind, but simply shielding up that unit, getting it to 3, and then pinging that damage would really set you back so much that it's hard to overcome that. Also, you have to be on the lookout for Vader ECL from Legends of the Force. Now, something I have been noticing, and there's been a lot of talk about in various discords, is this Tobias Beckett green Endless Legions deck. It is a true combo deck. It's actually very cool. The couple times I've seen it, it does an amazing combo with Endless Legions and the Splash Base, to where they're playing a Piet. They're trying to ambush in all of these crazy large crate dragons and big spaceships and Bo-Katans. And if you're not ready, you can lose to this deck very easily, because you're sitting there thinking that they're not doing anything, when in reality, they're about to flood the board with the best units in Star Wars Unlimited, all in one action. And shortly after the flip turn also. So, for that matchup, you're simply just trying to race them. You're using the units they give you to try to also help hit base. And where they're usually on the splash base, you can get to 27 very quickly. Just also have to watch out for other cards such as Evacuate, Hyperspace Disaster, those sorts of board wipes that would really set you behind. So, again, the main thing to think about going into these types of random decks, again, this is the Wild West. A lot of cards have been unbanned. A lot of characters are coming back to Eternal, is thinking about what are they trying to do? Do we need to make trades with their units, or do we need to just straight up race them? In the case of Tobias, you have to race them. In the case of Gar Saxon and Han Solo, you might have to trade units to get a board presence. It's just, you have to take time to figure out what are they doing and what is my best course of action. And that's going to wrap it up for this Star Wars Unlimited Eternal video. Again, I'm very excited to be playing this format. I'm actually very happy they didn't touch anything on the ban list. They didn't add anything too early. That way we can actually figure out, are these old cards really as busted as they were before? Or was it just simply that we needed more cards in our card pool to have answers to these different leaders and different cards that were suspended in the past? So again, thank you all for watching. If you don't mind, leave a like and go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you don't care. And we will see you all next time.